Metro booming, want some more. Yeah, Metro booming, want some more. Metro booming, nigga. Metro booming, want some more.
Hey, what's going down? My name is Busco the Barber. I'm gonna go ahead and narrate this tutorial for you guys. You guys could go ahead and follow me at Busco5150 Cuts. This haircut is created by my friend Global Cuts. You could go ahead and follow him also at Global Cuts. I'm gonna go ahead and guide you guys with the guidelines that we're gonna go ahead and create. If you guys have any type of questions, go ahead and leave a comment with your questions, and I'll make sure to reply back to your question and making sure you guys understand whatever it was not understood. So on our first step, we're gonna go ahead and set our first guideline, setting a perimeter of where we're gonna start and finish. This is gonna determine the fade, how it's gonna look. In this case, it's a mid fade, and you want to just go ahead and copy the exact direction that Global Cuts took and applying his first guideline. Now our second step is our electric shaver. So as you can see, we're shaving anything underneath the T outliner. We're making sure we're stopping slightly underneath, close to the temple, and as you notice, into the back nape, we're stopping a little bit lower. We're giving ourselves much more space so we can have a smoother transition when it comes to the blending. Now our third step will be our machine, your fading machine with no clip, the level closed. What does that mean? Having the blades closed, bald. As you can see, we're creating a second line, which is our first one is our balding, and then our zero line becomes our second line. This is your third step. Now if you're wondering what happened to the other line that was created with the T outliner, the zero complements the T outliner, so there is no T outliner line no more. Create a third line. This is step number 4. You're gonna go ahead and open the level, making sure you don't have no clip. That size is a half. Now a half and then the gray clip itself being a half, they're both called halves, but this half is slightly a little bit longer than the other one. So what you want to do is make sure you create your third line. This will determine the graduation of the fade. Now as you can see right now, we're creating our fourth line with our number 1, putting the level all the way open. That equals into a 1.5. We are creating our fourth line. So you want to go and make sure you brush and make sure that you hit everything detailed, making sure everything's precise. As you can see right there, we have 4 lines, and one of them is our balding, the second is our zero, the third one should be your half, the fourth should be your 1.5. Now don't get confused, because have in mind you guys used the T outliner as a guideline in the beginning, but that guideline gets lost in the process of hitting the zero after the balding. So make sure you have that in mind, so you could understand what size or what line means what. So now that we all have a good understanding on what line represents what, now we're gonna go ahead and know what clip to use to complement that line and erase it. So everything is in order. For example, your 1.5 on top. What is after a 1.5? A number 2 is right after that, right? Now this clip that we're using right now is called a universal clip. It's called a zero clip, a zero universal guard. Now really what it is it's a 1.5 guard. That being said, when you put it in the machine, it's a 1.5. When you put the level all the way open, it equals into a 2. Now you could also use your wall clip if you don't have this clip. We just tend to use this clip more often because it's easier for it not to break or fall off the machine. Now as you can see right now, after the 1.5, we passed it with the level open, and as we gradually move the level down, closing the blade, moving it from open, middle, and close. Now the reason why we have that level on the side is for the simple reason that we use it to make the size smaller and smaller. So that's gonna help you out to complement that line and erase everything. So now as you can see right here, we still have our guidelines. For whatever reason, this clip doesn't fully erase the 1.5 guard. We're gonna go ahead and start off with your number 1 open, which is a 1.5, just to eliminate any type of little marks that were left behind. So now we're just gonna retouch with our 1.5. This is our number 1 clip with the level open. As you do this, make sure you just hit those little marks that you see that were left behind by the 1.5. You pretty much just want to retouch it. And once you're done with that, we're going to start focusing on the third line. We're going to erase it, putting the level all the way close. And we're going to go ahead and pass that line out. What that's going to do is not going to eliminate your half line, but it is going to soften it up so you could take it off with your next clip. You want to go ahead and make sure that you pass the machine right. You want to close it, put it in the middle, and then open it if you have to. But at this point, you're just buffing out the half line and you're making it lighter and lighter. So make sure you take your time and recognize that at this point, you're not erasing and you're not going to be able to erase that half line, which is your third line. But you are buffing it out. You are making it softer for your next clip. You want to make sure you take your time and you pass the machine good. Start off with the level all the way open, close, and then middle, and then open it if you have to. So at this point, we did as much as we could with our size number 1. Our third line is still there, which is created by the half, which are level open with no clip. So we're gonna go ahead and pass that line. As you can see, we're pointing out where we're gonna stop. You want to make sure you pass that line, the third line, with the level all the way open, having your 1/16 guard in it, which is a great clip. At this point, after you passed it a couple times and then there's nothing else to cut, you want to go ahead and use the lever on the side and bring it down, bringing it towards the middle. Once you bring it to the middle, you make the size smaller, so it's gonna start blending out that third line, which will leave you at the end with only 2 lines, which will come back to erase. But for right now, make sure when you bring the level to the middle, you pass it. Once you passed it, you bring the level all the way down. So right now, we're pretty much just gonna take our time. As you can see, he's taking his time. You want to make sure you start off open, middle, and close. And just to detail, you could bring the level back up to the middle. And then, so pretty much when you bring the level up, you have the right to go a little bit higher, passing the line. The lower you bring the level, you have to remain slightly close to the line or stop slightly over the line, but you got to remain lower pretty much. You can't go as high as you could if you were to raise the level. Why? Because when you raise the level up, that means it's a longer size, so you could go higher. When you bring the level close and you're making the blade smaller, you're actually making the size smaller, so it doesn't really make sense to have a small size higher towards the scalp than to have a longer number. Now that we finally erased that third line, we're gonna go ahead and erase our second line with our machine with no clip. We're gonna start off with the level open, middle, and close. As you see, we pointed out exactly where which line we have to pass. You want to go ahead and pass it. Make sure when you pass it, you bring the level. You could either bring the level down notch by notch, one time at a time, or you could just bring it down to the middle and close. But you want to make sure you're precise with everything that you do and that you're targeting that second line. There's no point of trying to struggle to erase that balding line, because this is not going to do the job. That's why you have your other machine that's going to do that job, which will be your T outliner. So now we're going to go ahead and grab our T outliner, and what this is going to do is going to help us erase the balding line. The way how we're going to do that is by passing the balding line. Remember, in the beginning we gave ourselves a good amount of space with the 0, so you could literally pass that balding line with confidence, knowing that you're not going to create a new line. That was the whole purpose of us giving ourselves space from the beginning, so we could pass that line to fade it out without being so cautious on creating a new line. The whole point of the sections is to give yourself the proper space that you will need when it comes back to fading back down. When it comes to fading down and erasing your lines, you gave yourself the proper space for you not to mess up. So this is a good technique that's going to help you out. And also, as you guys saw, flipping the T-liner upside down creates a balder transition. As you see right here, it will definitely erase the balding line. This T-liner is not 0 gapped like all the way, so in this sense it will definitely be a good idea to flip it, because it will cut like if it was modified 0 gapped all the way. But it's not, because you never want to scar your clients or hurt them or give any type of irritations, if that makes sense. but flipping the machine upside down will definitely give you a balder transition in order for you to erase the balding line. Okay, so at this point we're pretty much gonna do the same thing on the other side. I just fast forward everything because it's the same steps. I'm still gonna go ahead and write down the steps that we did on from the beginning so you guys could catch on. But you guys gotta make sure you guys have a notebook and write down all these notes so you can remember them when you're doing them on your own. By memorizing the steps, for example, what your first guideline is, your second, your third, and your fourth. You won't have to depend on looking at this video every time you do a haircut. Especially if you're trying to learn on a friend that is giving you the chance to cut his hair. At least be on top of your stuff. That's being professional. Memorizing your steps. A lot of problems that a lot of people have is that they want to go ahead and start cutting hair so quick, and there's a routine to it, and you got to follow up with that routine. You got to make sure that everything you do is for a reason and everything is strategic, because you want to go ahead and learn how to do certain haircuts, and you want to be in charge of how the fade's gonna look, as in where it's gonna be dark and where it's gonna be light. So you want to make sure you follow up with your guidelines, knowing exactly where Global Cut started and then the amount of space that he gives himself towards the steps. So as you can see right now, we have our guidelines. The bottom one is our balding, the second is the 0, the third is the half, and the fourth is the 1.5. Now the other time I had a student that had an issue with the T outliner guideline. So pretty much this is what it is. We're setting our guidelines, which is 4 guidelines: our balding, our 0, our half, and our 1.5. Now I noticed that they'll start off with the T outliner and they'll skip the 0 and go straight to the half. Not only that, but also skip the balding part. When it came to the fading part, the transition wasn't as smooth or as bald or how it should be, because they weren't following the steps that they were supposed to follow. Now you got to remember, in order to set your guideline as a balding, you can't do it just with the electric shaver. You have to set it first with the T outliner, clean it up with the T outliner so you could create a balding line with the electric shaver. After that, your second guideline should be a 0, which is your machine with no clip, all the way closed, a 0. You're going to give yourself around ½ an inch space. Then you open the level and you're going to give yourself a third line with the half, and then the 1.5. These other clips that we're going to use are going to be to fade. So for example, you're going to go ahead and use your gray clip to fade in between the half and the 1. And in the beginning we didn't use those clips. In the beginning we didn't use that clip to create our steps, because we're going to use that clip to detail and to fade away the guidelines. Same thing with the machine all the way open, middle, and close. Now by leaving 2 guidelines in the beginning, which is with the balding and the 0, we have enough space to erase the balding with the T outliner, which was not one of our guidelines. Now it makes sense because now we're setting in the steps that are missing to create the whole fade that complement each line. Okay, so there's a gap in between the balding and the 0. The line that's going to take away the balding into the 0 will be your T outliner. So that should make sense for you to know that your T outliner is spaced to erase the balding to the 0, not to create a guideline. Yes, you are creating a guideline with your T outliner, but that's only so you could set your balding guideline with the electric shaver, and then the T outliner line will be complemented when you pass your second guideline, which will be your 0. Alright guys, so we're getting towards the end of the video. We only have 3 minutes left. So right now what we're pretty much doing is erasing our second line with our machine without no clip. This client had a beard, but we're not going to go ahead and do that. We're going to save that for other tutorials on how to line up a beard. But at this point we're teaching you how to do a fade, and these were the steps using your guidelines. Just remember to establish your guidelines in the beginning, so it could be very easy for you to erase them on your way back down, fading down. Also, if you don't want to fade going down, you could fade going up. As you can see right here, Global is putting his TL liner upside down. This TL liner is modified zero gap, but it's not fully zero gap to the point where we don't want to hurt our client, our customer, giving them a scar or anything like that. So at that point, when you do that, when you pass the machine trying to erase the balding, and if you still see some type of stubble or line, that's when you put the machine upside down, and it will definitely erase that. Alright, so this is the beginning of the end with this video. Pretty much what you want to do right here is just put some type of wax, gel, whatever you have right there to hold the hair in place, because we're going to do what's more important towards this haircut, which is the lineup. Now, a lot of people say you got to figure it out on your own, how to do a lineup, things like that, but honestly, there's a little trick to doing a lineup straight and perfect. We're not going to get into full details in this video specifically, because this video is meant for you to learn how to do a fade. Pretty soon I'm going to do a tutorial on focusing only in the lineup. I feel like this is something very important, especially when it comes to a haircut, because you might find yourself with clients that only want a shape up and not a fade, and you have to make sure that your shape ups are on point. By shape up, I mean your lineup in the front or any type of shape up, but like I said, the lineup in the front, there's a little trick to it to make sure that you do it nice and straight and perfect. Okay, so make sure you guys stay tuned for our next video, which we're gonna get into details with the lineup and the beard. Other than that, this is the full haircut. We're just applying shaving gel right now, which is our shaving gel that we usually use, Easy Blade. It's pretty good for lineups, for shape ups, anything like that, because the shaving gel is see-through and it allows you to see where you're gonna shave. That way you won't have to cut your client on accident or anything like that. Because there's times where, for example, you could use shaving cream and it's so white and foamy you could barely see the person's skin. So some people might have like a pimple, for example, or anything like that. You cut them. So that's why it's really important to use a clear shaving gel. If you guys want to go ahead and buy this shaving gel, I'm gonna leave the link in the description. It's called Easy Blade Shaving Gel. For those who have stood here and watched the whole tutorial, I want to give you guys a big thank you. Don't forget to go ahead and like the video if you guys liked it. Leave any type of comment. Remember guys, these tutorials are specifically to teach you guys, so don't be afraid to leave a comment with a question. We'll go ahead and answer back, and make sure to stay tuned with all our other tutorials that we have. Go ahead and visit our YouTube channel, 5150 Cuts, and hopefully you guys learn something from here and find a video that could suit you and what you're trying to learn. Other than that, this is the final product. Global Cuts did this haircut. He's a great barber. Go ahead and follow him at Global Cuts. You could go ahead and follow me at Busco 5150 Cuts. This is my friend. I'm gonna have more tutorials of him coming soon. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and most importantly, I hope you guys learn. Alright, so peace out.